Hi, you are watching SightsIn Plus and this is Romesh Srivastav. Please to subscribe the channel for the HR news, for HR updates and conversation with the top-notch CHROs, thought leaders and business heads. Today we are going to analyze Accenture's first quarter result for financial year 2025. Recently, the Accenture has announced its quarterly result. You can say November monthly result because Accenture follows August to September financial year. Numbers are good. The quarter is strong. To discuss and deep dive this, joining us, Mr. Milind Mutalik is a former Chief People Officer, Accolite Digital. Welcome, Milind. And very first, I would like to know your initial comment on this. How do you see the Accenture's first quarter?
Thank you, Romesh, for inviting me again. I think Accenture results to me looks very optimistic. Some of the points which are emerging out of it are, investments are coming through, especially if you look at the growth, the America region of theirs have grown this time, which also shows there is both the business lines which they have, there's a growth of 9% or, you know, 11% and 6% kind of a numbers which I could see. So this is definitely a very positive sign in terms of growth, which are being, Accenture is looking at because they are the leading the show. And based on that, we will definitely have some of the positive rub-offs here in Indian IT organizations too. That's my broad comment. As we go ahead, we can, talk more in details in terms of numbers, etc. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are three major points when I see the result. So headcount is increasing, and quarter by quarter the headcount is increasing. In last quarter, we have seen the Accenture has added around 24,000 people, and in this quarter, even around nearly 25,000 people they have added. So this is very positive news, good sign. Another important aspect is that revenue. If you see the revenue, so that is also all-time high if you compare with the last financial year, financial 2024. So this is $17.7 billion. In the last quarter, we have seen $16.41 billion. So this is also increased. There's increase in revenue, there's increase in headcount. How do you see the coming days with the hiring part? Because most of the people that would be also curious to know that what are going to be the hiring trend in Accenture in coming days.
One or two first comments is in on numbers or the revenue which has been done. This revenue is beating their projections. So it is some 200 million or 240 million higher than what was projected by them. So this itself is one of the positive sides. Second is guidelines for the year which has been given. That's revised from 3 to 6% to 4 to 7%. Now, these two are very positive aspects to look at from the future point of view. Okay, now coming to the question, before you go to the headcount, let me tell you one of the good highlight which is going to show you the trend even of the Indian IT industry is generative AI booking is 1.2 billion, which is a big number which Accenture shows. Even the order booking, when we were looking at the order booking is, Accenture is having a good order booking. And again, you see, if you look at the total order booking which they have for the whole year or cumulative order booking number, that comes to nearly 100 billion, 99.93 billion, which has got consulting of 46 billion and managed services of 53 billion. So all this is showing a positive trend towards the new aspects which are coming up. Yeah. And also, if you look at, I was trying to look at the picture onto what are the businesses or markets which are growing. So one of the thing, 9% growth which has been shown as compared to the last year quarter is in Americas by 9%. EMEA, okay, is increased by 10%. Now this is basically on US currency basis, and APAC has increased by 6%. Now this is absolutely a positive sign that all the regions are growing for them. Importantly, if you look at, increases in products by 12%, the revenue in the products division of theirs is by 12%, health and public services by 13%. Now, this is again giving a trends of what is growing. communication media by 7%, and financial services by 4%. Now, all this is giving a very optimistic picture according to me. And coming to now the headcount for Accenture, here I have done some of the number analysis today. If I look at the Accenture headcount, it is nearly 7,99,000. 798, 781 is the number which I can think about or can see or read. Now, if you look at 7% of a growth, you know, what does that mean? Those manpower required, and there I went into little details that what is the per head revenue which Accenture has, and believe it, because only 40% of the employees are in India, their rate of billing is much higher as compared to the Indian companies, and it's nearly about $80,000 per annum per person revenue. And that goes to show that for a billion of a revenue, they need about 13,000 employees. Okay. Now, if they need 13,000 employees, currently 40% out of it, like out of the 7,99,000, 3 lakh employees are in India. All right. So coming to India scenario, if this is 40%, I same way go into 7 times of 13,000 to make of 4.5 billion. So I make 13,000 into 4.5. That gives me a count of about 58,500. And in India, there would be about 24,000, 23,500, which will be hired in India. Now, this is for the growth. Okay. Second part of it is the attrition is 12%. Okay. Even if I say in the attrition, we have again, let's say 40% of this 12% still gives me about 35, 36,000 new backfills, which will happen over a period of time. So this itself gives about a count of 60,000 plus a new investment campus and all of 25,000 would make India headcount grow up to the extent of 75 to 85,000 is broad numbers based on some of the assumptions which are there. So that's my point that at least 85,000, 75, 85,000 employees overall in India could be added by them. Yeah. And, typically because of backfill and others, they would definitely want some of the trainees to come in to, fill in that positions during the gap. So this is my take on Accenture, typical headcount addition in India. Okay. Overall, it would be much higher than that because, and you have seen the trend happening. If in last 2 quarters they are able to hire more than 20,000, that means they've added up that kind of number in last 2 quarters and it is reflected in the revenue growth. Also, when you look at the order book, I was trying to look at last year, the revenue of Accenture is, 64 billion around. Okay. Even if I add, 7%, it gives you, something in the range of 5 billion, 4.5 billion. So it's going to be nearing 70 billion. Okay. And the same count, if I look at 7.99, okay, at the same rate of 80,000, I'm sure this is going to go up at least by lakh of people or more. Okay. So that's what broadly I see as a headcount movement, which is very positive. And taking a further leaf into it, how does India looks at the whole thing? And this is where, in my own opinion, whatever I call as a Twitch companies, okay, that is TCS, Wipro, Infosys, Cognizant, and HCL. Okay, these companies, as I made last time also a point that they are making roughly about 89, 90 billion of a revenue. They have done it last year, 2024 March. Okay. And the overall employee strength which they had broadly again, if look at TCS about 6.5 lakhs or somewhere here and there, nearing 3 lakhs in Wipro, nearing 4 lakhs, 3 lakh 87,000 or something in fee. Cogniz nearly same number, HCL again about 2.87, etc. So all this coming to about 20 lakhs. What does that mean? In India, for every 1 billion of a revenue, roughly about 20 to 23,000 employees are required. Okay. Now let's consider this. If we grow by 5%, all these companies together, we are again going to have a similar number of 4.5 billion. Okay. And this is going to need us about lakh employees, roughly about 1 lakh 3,000, something like that. Okay. So what does that mean? Lakh employees are required as a new growth. Now let's come to the attrition. All right. We have, as I said, 20 lakhs kind of a manpower. Even if I say out of this 20% manpower is overseas, not in India, where the attrition could be taken as less. Still, it leaves us with about 16 lakh employees, 16 lakh 40,000. And if I take 13% on that, which is my backfill over a period of time, it's going to be 2 lakhs plus. So that 1 lakh of new growth, 2 lakh of new hire is going to make it 3 lakhs. Now comes the investment into the campus, etc. We have seen the announcing 40,000 by TCS, HCL, 10,000 in fee, 15,000. All this and the rest of the companies which are having the, India scenario. I'm just considering this 5 companies itself will make more than 1.5 lakhs even campus. Rest of them, the number could go up to 2.5 lakhs. So look at the numbers which we are talking about, roughly about 4-5 lakhs, which is going to be a definite big churn which we are able to see, during this period. And I have been reading some of the reports, by agencies which has kind of done the projections on what Indian ITs are going through and how it's going to increase. They are saying already there is a 10% of increase in the hiring, and overall there is going to be 24 or 23% plus increase in the hiring, including all this stuff, including all campus and backfills plus the new growth. I think this is again a turnaround year, and this is definitely a very positive aspect which is going to drive this industry. Okay, one important aspect is the hiring is going to be more for the new technologies, and hiring is going to be for the uh, you know niche skills. So this is going to be one of the aspect. Are we able to get all that people? Are we able to train? Because if you look at, Accenture also said they had a target of training about X number of 80,000 people, and they've trained some 69,000 or something. So there is definite need of upskilling and matching the technological skills which are required for delivering the current projects.
So if I try to summarize what you said recently on the hiring part, so there could be around 3 lakh positions that may be for the lateral hires, and 2.5 lakh positions that are from the campus and for the freshers. So around 4.5 lakh, or you can say roughly 4 to 5 lakh jobs are here in IT industry in India.
Absolutely.
And another point that you have also highlighted, that growth guidelines that has been also increased by the Accenture earlier, which was 3 to 5%, now it is 4 to 7%. That has been
Three to
increased.
six to 4 to 7.
Yeah, 4 to 7 now. 4 to 7 now. So these are takeaways and the hiring point of view. And apart from this, if you look at another very important aspect, in 2023, the Accenture, they did not salary hike for the India and Sri Lanka employees. Even in 2024, they revised their cycle, and now it is due in June 2025, which was due in December 2024. Based on this growth, based on this revenue increase in headcount numbers, everything which is sounding very good and strong, how do you see the salary hikes for the Indian employees?
So I think if the market condition remains stable and they see the growth, I'm sure in the month of June you can expect 6% to 10% increase which would come in for the India employees, because that has been a trend to give 6 to 10% of increases. When I say 6 to 10%, again, very importantly, if you look at you know employee cost or manpower cost is the major component of the cost for any organization which is delivering the IT services. Now, if you look at in India, there would be majorly the managed services as compared to the product implementation. And revenue out of US and India, if you look at currently, is 50-50. Okay. So if you look at India cost versus India revenue, it's an impact of could be even 50% of hit. And that being a reason, 6 to 10% itself would be a impact on the bottom line of 3% to 5%. Now, the day they feel that they are able to take this impact of 3 to 5% to the bottom line, the 6 to 10% salary increases will be possible for the India employees. Especially when you see overall IT industry in India, it would be little different from what Accenture is doing. Okay. If India has gets a growth of about 5% average, I'm saying this, top organizations, then the increase could be in the range of 5% to 8.5%. Because 8.5 is the average which would be taken. Again, here when I say 5% to 8.5, the impact to the bottom line is 2.5% to 4%. So I think looking at how much you are able to take a hit on the bottom line, because all the clients don't give you rate increases. So you need to really, and again, Accenture reports points out that smaller investments are not coming, but the long term projects and bigger investments are coming up. And whenever there are long term, multi year projects, the margins are something which are being always challenged. Yeah. So these are some of the points which would say still, though we will grow on the top line, we will be more cautious on the increments because we want to protect the bottom line.
So Accenture employees in India, they can expect around 6 to 10% of the salary hike in this year,
That's a
2025.
projection I have, and I hope
Right,
that should happen.
right. Coming to another very important aspect that whenever the results are announced by the Accenture, we also start thinking about that what maybe the quarterly results are, what is the condition of IT industry in India. How to see, based on this, how to see the Indian IT companies, how you can forecast on this?
See, very importantly, the Accenture results are very optimistic. Yeah. And it is giving a confidence that, from whatever I would say 2024 end or maybe first, kind of 24 last quarter, I feel there's definitely a confidence that there is a spending increase. And I have seen some of the results like of Infosys and all expressing a good amount of optimism. Yeah. And I feel it's a very positive news for all of the IT industries or IT services industry in India, that there is an investment happening, and America side of a business of Accenture grown, which will definitely have an impact for us also. Okay. The smaller client deals may not have an increase, but there is definite improvement in a spending on data, on AI, on prioritizing that implementations and other aspects. Yeah. So I think it's a very positive aspect, and I feel Indian IT organizations which are really having a bit of a pessimism would turn out into optimism and could go up to, as I said, 3 to 5% of projection, which they all have given as a future forecast for 3 to 5%. So I feel it's definitely a good year which we are looking at from the point of view of Indian IT services or Indian IT top players, which are being typically coming up and demonstrating their results every quarter.
Thank you so much, Mr. Milind, for your insightful analysis of Accenture's quarterly result. Now, I would like to move another very important subject, that is GCCs, Global Capability Centers. So, in 2024, even we have seen a growth, good growth in GCCs. If you look at the numbers around in India, we have 1,700 GCCs in 2024. And if you look at the report, so these may be around 3,000 by 2030. And currently, around 19 lakh employees are working with the GCC, and this number can be increased to 49 lakh, around 50 lakh by 2030. How do you see this growth with the GCCs?
I think yes, GCC have been around for a long. I have been reading some of the reports which shows GCCs have started right in 2010, but 2015 onwards the growths have started. Okay. Now one of the report which I read is by 2025, this GCC sector expects the growth by 36%, adding somewhere in the range of 7 to 800 new centers. Okay. And now, one of the very important thing is the shift is happening in the tier 2, tier 3 cities because of taking the advantage of the cost. Example, like of Jaipur, Indore, Coimbatore are becoming the talent hubs because the talent is available. And that being the reason, you would find graduates, mid level employees, especially this is shifting towards the tier 2, tier 3. I would say because of cost saving as well as the talent pool is available. BFSI, manufacturing, and IT are typically showing this trend. Now, coming to in India, when we talk about GCC earlier, there was always a thinking that we only have, typically BFSI as a GCCs. But today, if you look at it's across the industry, the GCCs are there. Software organizations are having GCC, engineering organizations are having GCCs, BFSIs, automotives have the GCCs here. You'll find telecom, manufacturing and telecom both. Semiconductors are the new ones which are coming up. There are gaming, sector where the GCCs are in India, and the rest of them, supporting as a shared services also are out of India. So I think the expansion is happening not only in the vertical but in the horizontals also. So number of businesses which are coming are much more. That's what I am trying to say. Okay. When it comes to GCC, you've quoted the numbers, and as we see the reports even last year, they were more than 1,50,000 hires from the campuses also. One of the things which is happening in GCC, in my reading, it comes in, there's a lot of rise in replacement hiring there because infant attrition is much higher. One of the report which I was reading was saying that infant hiring is attrition is very high. People are leaving after joining much faster. Some of them who have come from the industry are not able to really quickly integrate. Yeah. So I think GCC is parallelly going to run because when you say IT companies, IT services, roughly about 58 lakhs employees, and this becoming about 16, 17 lakhs are going to be really a good competition. And with 800 coming in, the whole count in the next year would go even up to 22, 23 lakhs, 2.3 million kind of a number, which would come in next year, which is a big number or a kind of recognized industry. And as I see some of the numbers, okay, some of the numbers shows that this particular industry is having a good, I would say, revenue, roughly in the range of 45 million. Somewhere I've read 45 billion is the revenue, or I would say the income generated out of this place of India GCCs is coming up. I've read in some of the reports which are published in 24 or something.
Rightly said. Earlier, we have seen only GCCs in like Bangalore and Hyderabad kind of the location maximum, and then also penetration to other locations. But now, yeah, we also see the development center. These kind of the GCCs are also coming in tier two cities, and if you look at the numbers and apart from the jobs, so we have seen also good number of hiring with the GCC. Yeah, definitely there are challenges. Attrition is high. So earlier we have seen this is kind of operational. This is an operational hub. Now we are calling it like a innovation center. How do you see this transition?
See, I'll tell you one of the major aspect that what are the skills which have been driven by them over here. Is it like you are running it as a back office? No. Today, data science, cloud technology, cybersecurity, AI, ML, prompt engineering, you know, NLP. These are all the aspects which are being coming out of India. Now, what does that mean? There are no only vanilla skills role which have been done, but high skill or niche skills roles are being run from here. Obviously, finding the talent becomes definite, time consuming job, and especially when this talent is scarce or less available, scarce and less available, then you find difficulty in lead time of hiring. Importantly, about 20%, roughly in the average of 20% of manpower of the global presence is in India. This shows that there is a focus strategically, and some of the leaders are sitting out of this place, and that transformation has been happening to seek the help of the new engine of innovation and growth coming out of India. And that's something which has not been with only engineering organization, even banking, financial services. I've seen some of the some of the areas where there's cybersecurity is driven out of India. The server support and changing the whole transformation is tried out of the Indian GCCs, and then it's being implemented all over globally. So two aspects: one, 20 to 40% of manpower has been of a global presence is in India, shows the strategic vision. Number two, the skills and the talent which has been driven is out of India. And third is there are leadership positions which are being there out of India, which are making a relevance on the global, complete scenario. And that shows typically that this is going to be the innovation engine and not only the cost arbitrage kind of a center.
So this is innovation engine, and first point, if I take from your previous responses, so this is not only for the retail, this is not only for the BFSI, now the manufacturing, now the energy sector. These are the sectors they are coming up with the GCCs, and if you look at these this growth, this kind of the growth in GCC, then how do you anticipate what would be the hiring numbers for GCC in this financial year 2025?
Okay, if you look at again, last year, if again I based on last year's number, if I say, if they have had a 10% of hiring coming from the campus, the similar thing will continue. So I again presume about 2 lakh employees will be hired out of the campus. And again, when you look at in typical attrition, which I see in the GCCs would be in the range of 10%. Yeah. And 10% hiring again of 2 lakh employees, which is going to be a backfill. Further growth. So these are the three engines I would say. One is the freshers, which is going to be the investment. The second, the laterals for the growth. If you talk about 800 centers, and on an average, if I take, anywhere between to start with first year, 200 to 500 people, there could be a need of about 50,000 plus employees there. Okay. 50,000 there. Growth engine, definitely about 10%, which could be about 1,50,000. So overall, I say roughly about 3 lakh would be the count which would be hiring for the GCCs, which would have three components: the backfill for the attrition, the new growth, and the campus hiring. These three elements would come to, according to my estimation, it's going to be nearly 3 lakhs.
Total, we can see around 3 lakh the new addition into the GCCs in 20 financial year 2025. That also includes the campus hiring number around that will be 2
Absolutely.
lakh number. So this is a good addition, I would say. And thank you so much, Mr. Milind, for joining the conversation and sharing your wonderful thoughts. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks.